All right, guys, we're back with Therapy is Dope with Alicia and Laura. We got Laura this time. And
I'm
we
here.
also have Martyn Williams. I don't know why I just changed your name, but that's something I like to do from time to time. Um, I'm very excited to see where our conversation goes today. So, if you would tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what you got going on.
Sure. Okay, great. So I grew up in Liverpool, England, and sort of connected with nature at an early age. So started rock climbing, and then was wondering what's next. So then ended up teaching in the Yukon in northern Canada, the equivalent of Alaska in a little remote village. Um, but I was always interested in nature and the adventure side of things. So in the Yukon, I was teaching native kids. So I learned about dog mushing, trapping, all those sorts of things. But then the opportunity to guide came up to mountain guide. So then I moved full time into mountain guiding, and I've guided mountains all over the world. So I've worked on Mount Everest as a mountain guide. I've led expeditions to the North Pole, South Pole. I'm the first person in the world to lead expeditions to the three extremes. And then after that, in that process, I was wondering, I was always looking at human performance. What is human performance? So I was working
Mm,
literally with, very wealthy, millionaires, billionaires,
sure.
people like that. But it also worked with, kids in trouble with the law in Vancouver. So this whole, and then with, I'd been with Sherpas in Nepal and with Inuit people in the high Arctic. So I'd seen this whole, this sort of uh, human existence, right, in all its forms. So I was wondering what is human potential. So um,
Mm,
in 1997, I had this whole idea about one journey had never been done before from the North Pole to the South Pole into human power. And I realized that it wouldn't have to be the highly experienced explorers. I could get young people because now we can transfer technologies so fast. So I pulled, as long as people have sort of the raw enthusiasm. So I pulled this group of inexperienced young people from around the world, 18 to 24, and we did this journey. It was a 9 month journey from the North Pole to the South Pole into human power. And the thing ended up being successful. And on the way, we spoke to schools and universities about you can make a difference in the world. We're entering a whole new millennium. There's 2,000 years behind us. When we were, little isolated tribes 2,000 years ago. Now we're much more, now we're a global community. We can all make a difference. So we collected millions of promises of action from young people.
Oh,
So, so I did that
amazing.
in 2000, and then I was wondering what's next. And then I came across I started studying, Buddhism, Hinduism, various things. So I ended up being a monk in India for 10 years, doing yoga and meditation practices, things like that. Then then I moved away from that, and now I have a coaching business, coaching executives, and yeah, so that's where I am now, and I feel I live this very joyful, vibrant, from all those experiences, I'm left with, wow, um, I just feel my life is just so beautiful, and
Mm,
I'm sort of I wake up in the morning excited for life, and I very deliberately wake up so that I am excited. And then throughout the day, enjoy movement, enjoy, helping people, things like that. So that's where I am now. So this, you know, a sort of
wow.
very varied journey, all going sort of like this all over the place, right?
that's amazing. That's so cool.
Truly. I mean, I don't
And
even
in all
know where
that,
to begin.
sorry, one more thing. And in all that, I see exactly what you're doing as being so, so important. So that's why, so really that's why I wanted to be here is because, what you're doing is so important. It's the essence of life, really, it's helping people discover what the essence of life is.
Mm.
I love that. I definitely should we rename the
I
podcast
think
Essence
we
of Life?
might need to.
I'm totally game for that. Essence of Life with Laura and Alicia. Thank you,
Yes.
Martin.
Oh my God, that's
Um,
so cool.
what I mean, obviously you've traveled such an expansive space, not only physically, but psychologically, spiritually. What's surprised you on your journey?
Hmm. I guess that I really do see that, which is why it comes back to what you're doing, that so many people are walking through life in some form of struggle that is unnecessary ultimately. And so this so much of the struggle is unnecessary, but we feel that it's, just the way it is, right? And so
Mm,
we're not asking the question. We're not asking questions uh, about what's going, why am I struggling from another perspective? So
mm,
that's really what I see is that the, there's so much more opportunity to be more aware, to change patterns, to look at conscious patterns. Basically, it often so often for me it boils down to people just sit in unconscious patterns that they don't question.
hmm.
Okay, I have a lot of questions.
Go ahead.
Um, First of all, it's interesting to me that you say that people are struggling and they don't have to, while you were signing up to struggle climbing mountains. So please help me understand that.
Aha. So now um, having spent time in India in meditation, what I see is that that in on mountains, often the core reason to be there is to be highly present with the beauty of the environment and the challenge.
Hmm.
So there's these unconscious drivers that take us to do various things, right?
Right.
Why do we do those
Hmm.
things? It's what you're saying. Well, why? And I really do see that if I look at all these outdoor activities, whether it's geology, bird watching, rock hounding, physical stuff, often the underlying thing is actually to be in nature doing something, you know. And
Yeah.
so and in nature we're more present with the environment, so there's less
Hmm.
thought, um, we're less busy in the mind. So actually we come back feeling refreshed, you know?
Yeah, I also
Mm.
think it's about like conscious struggle versus unconscious struggle,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Like
That's right.
choosing to hike and be out in nature and challenge your body.
Hmm.
You're not unconscious to what you're doing. You are actively, consciously choosing. I
Yeah.
can think about, being a parent is a conscious choice to have all this love in your life, but also most people know it comes with some degree of struggle, if not an immense degree of struggle,
Hmm.
but yet it's meaningful. So I don't think it's about avoiding struggle. What is the monk perspective on struggle, conscious versus unconscious?
Good question. So really what it boils down to is desires,
Mm,
and we have desires, and desire and creativity is beautiful, right? But it's
hmm.
when the desires are coming from a place of struggle or fear or greed, that then they become distorted. So
Mm,
if the desire comes from fear or greed, it becomes distorted. And many desires start off that way, coming from there. But it's when desire is just coming from raw enthusiasm, raw, raw creativity. And so especially in young children, you see this often, so often, don't you? With kids, there is this raw curiosity, that
mm,
is so beautiful, you know?
That's true. Speaking
Mhm.
of the young people, that was the other question I had. Like, how did you get this group of young people? Like, how did you do this
Well,
from
uh,
north to south?
as a real,
Did
what do
everybody
you mean?
make it? That's my first question.
Yeah, actually, everybody made it, and it was
Wow.
from.
great.
So I chose people from around the world. So it was, the countries included Korea, Japan, South Africa, um, Argentina, Colombia, USA, Canada, France, and but in Canada, what I did, I advertised, and I had hundreds of applications. So I brought the best 20 Canadians together and said, over 4 days, we want you to select one of you to represent Canada. So then I put them through this sort of really boot camp type process where we had them 2 o'clock in the morning swimming in nasty swamps and all this horrible stuff, right?
Mm,
And but what happened at the end of the couple of days is the team I had with working with me was super, super experienced explorers, world-class people, right? And we got together and said, well, who are we going to choose? And we said, well, there's the guy there he's super well spoken. He's on the Prime Minister Advisory Board on the environment. He's got all the qualifications. We think he's the one. But the young people, they chose somebody different. And they chose the person who was actually at the back of the line all the time,
Mm,
helping the people who were struggling.
Oh my.
And it was
mm,
like, oh, like, oh, the grown up, we fell in the grown up trap, right? We
right.
we fell into the societal trap of name and fame and all that sort of stuff. And these young people saw through that and they selected the heart, right?
Yeah.
So cool.
Mhm. Yeah.
Why do you think it's so hard for us to be present?
And conditioning, we have a
Yeah.
lot of conditioning that stops us being present, and
Well, I
thought.
think to your point, like that's one of the beauties of being in nature and being even physical in nature. Like it's hard to ruminate and spin around thoughts when you're trying to hike a mountain or if you're experiencing extremely cold weather. Maybe extremely hot. I haven't gone that far, but definitely the cold. But what it definitely does is it makes you present to where you are, what you're doing. But it's almost like that external discomfort is what brings us to the present moment. And if we don't have it, we just let our ego mind wander to find a different discomfort because, brain's a problem solving device. But
Yeah.
when I talk to people, a lot of times people are afraid of their own internal ecosystem. They're afraid to understand their emotions. They push things away. I'm very intrigued by the story with the younger children kind of finding the heart, right? When you think about that concept, right? Like you're the leader, you went through the filtering process of why you think that guy would be well, and then you see who they choose, and you see like the not the illusion, but like, oh, right, we fell in that trap again. What do you think fell out of focus?
Hmm. For us, for the adults, I mean, yeah.
Yes.
I think just um, it's a really good question because it really is. It's it's our adult conditioning which puts the priorities, which puts certain things in priority, right? So
Mm,
our priorities were in ultimately incorrect. The pri the priority is really, for somebody doing this journey is are they are they going to be a heart-centered team member who
mm.
really who really puts the focus of the group's success as their priority, right?
Do you think
I
that's true in all circumstances? Sorry, I'll let you go after. Mm. Do you think that's true in all circumstances? That like the heart is who, like I'm thinking of like reconditioning. They chose the
Mhm.
heart center. Is that what we can regularly focus on? Is like choosing the heart center and like that can be the, I guess, North Star of the reconditioning?
Yeah, I think yeah, I would again, and just it's a new concept you're throwing at me here, but I think you're totally right. I think if we were to again, my mind moves to solutions, and so I'll be saying, yeah, first thing in the morning, just look at how can I be heart-centered today and then just run through the day and visualize oneself in a heart-centered situation in these different situations, so, you know, um, that would be, yeah, that how I would, that's my interpretation.
Yeah, I love that. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
I was just thinking like that the conditioning makes a lot of sense because we get told what's important in life. Like
That's
academics
right.
are
Yeah.
important and achievements are important and performance is important. And we get away from values being important or heart center being important, love being important. And it's interesting. I heard somebody say once that what life is all about is coming home to ourselves. And it just feels like that is kind of what we're talking about here, like
Yeah.
remembering what's really important kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree that. And you're coming back to the comment about, you talked about, being present. One of the things I realized on an expedition, let's imagine, say, we're going to the South Pole and it's going to be 50 days and the temperatures are going to be start off at minus, well, 28, in the 20s, and then -5, -10, and then we're going to end up at -40, and there's a headwind
Ah,
every day, right? And the landscape is just snow, right? So what I realize is that there's really four things we can do with our mind. So all we have is our mind and body, right? And the mind
mhm.
can do four. So the first one it can do is, what the heck am I doing here? Right? You know, it can
Yeah,
it can really enjoy, or it can go into massive grumbling, right?
Sure.
Um, then it can go into daydream, as in, I wish I was on the beach in Hawaii or wherever
Mm,
else we
hmm.
enjoy. Um, or it can go into, wow, I'm just present with the snow. And when we're present with the snow, the light on the snow becomes a whole world of beauty, right? Um, or I can go into, a thought can come up that makes me enthusiastic. But each one would affect my performance. So if we sort of take this as almost like a metaphor for life. So when I go into, because my speed over the ground is steady, right? I think I'm doing the same speed, just trucking along, trucking along. But as soon as I went into grumble, it drops down. My speed drops down about 20%. When I go into daydream, it drops down 10%. When I'm in presence, I'm at 100%. And when a creative idea comes in, there's a bounce in my step. But often, so I can't keep the creative ideas all the time, but there's definitely an increase in performance, right? So if you think about a
Mhm.
metaphor for life, in my daily life, this is what's happening to me. 20% of my energy is going away when I grumble, right? Or
Mm.
my effectiveness in life, what I can do in life. When I'm in daydream, I'm off by 10%, right? And so it's for me, it put a framework to the whole idea of um, what's the value of being present, right?
Yeah,
If you want a numerical value to being present.
interesting. I haven't thought about it from a numerical stance.
I love numbers.
I hate it.
Just throwing them in there. I don't like to actually crunch them or anything.
Hmm.
But
Sure.
I have another question.
Yes.
So you mentioned the word desire, and Laura and I have talked about that before because we had another guest who decided to climb Mount Everest and she did it. And I was like, why would you even want to do that? And we were talking about it from a challenging yourself perspective. And I understand that everybody has a different need for risk and need for adventure. And it seems to me like you started out as a very adventurous, risk-taking kind of person, obviously not afraid to also involve other people in that risk. So pretty big threshold for risk. But then you go all the way to being a monk, which seems like almost the opposite to me. So I'm curious, how did that journey go for you?
So what um, what happened in India was that, so if we're looking, say, on a quest for enlightenment, put it that way, right? So
Okay.
now I'm off in India on a
A
quest for
new kind of
enlightenment.
adventure.
Yeah, new kind of adventure. And so, and the organization I'm working with, they're now putting the people on the quest in situations that were just like expeditions. So, so they're
Mm,
saying, in order to understand your potential, let's go for a week, attempt to go for a week without sleep, and let's
mhm.
Oh,
see what happens. But on expeditions, we would end up in precarious situations where we'd have to go without sleep, right? So it's
Right.
like on expeditions, I was doing the same thing. But what it does, though, these break barriers around our conditioned thinking is, and typically even more so now, is, oh, I need 8 hours, right? I have to have 8 hours. If I don't have 8 hours, blah blah blah. But all of a sudden that conditioned thinking gets thrown out when you experiment, right? So these experiments would break up the conditioned thinking. So the same thing with food, again, and the same thing like, well, let's meditate for 18 hours, let's do so. So really, the whole process was breaking our conditioned think, or not necessarily breaking, but dropping our conditioned thinking about what is possible, who we are as humans. And I
Mm.
saw the parallels between that and expeditions or adventures. And so then another learning, I guess, is that if we look at life through the lens of an adventure or an exploration, um, it opens up um, more fun, basically. There's way more fun when we approach life through the whole idea of an exploration.
See, you're probably wondering why our nonverbals are
That's
so
that's
loud.
right.
And
That's
it's
right.
because you are preaching everything I say and believe about experimentation, curiosity, wonder, exploration, and having more fun and playfulness. So, Alicia, every time you're saying something like that, I know she's like, my face hurts. I'm smiling so hard because I absolutely believe in so much of the same things. It's
Mhm.
actually why my logo is a mountain with someone on top of the mountain overcoming the challenge because that we learn so much about ourselves through that. And there's the way that I use in my coaching to break a lot of our conditioning is experimentation and curiosity to find new strategies and new outlets that work for us to develop who we want to be from a heart centered place. So, from your words to my heart, I am totally in on all of
Oh,
that.
yeah. Good, good, good. Great. Yeah, no, it's really, and again, let me ramble on about this for a minute longer because what I saw as I started looking through this lens of exploration, I realized that um, it's a, um, it's curiosity is the foundation of it.
Mhm.
And we tend to, though, the human mind wants to create structure and structure limits curiosity, and so often,
Hmm.
and we want logical steps, and when the logical step doesn't happen, we get disappointed, right?
Mm.
So logic creates expectations and disappointment.
Hmm.
But when we approach from exploration, then it's, oh, that didn't work. Oh, but it's no big deal, right?
Right. It's discovery. It's
It's discovery. Yeah,
experimentation. It's fun. It's
yeah,
play. It's
yeah.
like figuring out how to put something together and being satisfied with the end result. At some point, like it's like a puzzle, right? You have to try pieces to see what works.
That's right. Yes. And another one of my discoveries on this topic is that I realized that, say, for instance, there's two people climbing Everest and
Hmm.
or doing anything, doesn't matter. Let's pick the Olympics, right? And two people and they both fail, right?
Hmm.
So now one is disappointed, massively disappointed, and can be disappointed for years. And the other one is just, oh, okay, let me move on. And typically, what I see the difference is that when we're fully in the present moment on the journey, then the end result matters less.
Mm.
Mm.
It's when the expectation is the focus, not being present. So when we train ourselves being present, then at the end we're present, right? Hey, I'm here. It doesn't,
Yeah.
I'm not holding a gold medal or a silver medal, but I'm here and I'm present, right? And it's beautiful, and there's these beautiful people around me, and I had a great time.
Yeah. It's a gratitude for the experience rather than disappointment for the expectation.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. But the more we stay, but this is, I guess, the value of presence. The more we're present,
Hmm.
then on an expedition also, the more we're present, the more I see the dangers too. So I'm in high awareness.
Yeah. There's a
It's too
quote.
safe to be present.
There's a quote, and I'm gonna botch it a little bit, but it's something like when you understand that the purpose of life isn't happiness, but rather growth and experience, happiness comes as a natural byproduct. And if you think about it, like experience is from presence, from curiosity, from exploration, and growth comes in the form of discomfort. And it's
Mhm.
uncomfortable hiking that moment, but discomfort also does bring us into the present moment where we can shape who we become. We just often have a immediate interpretation and kind of like push away from discomfort rather than pulling it in to see what we can do with it. I mean, that's so much of what you learn when you're a monk. It's like, let me go test my level of sleeplessness. Let me see how long I can do these things and engage in discomfort to find a more centered space. The thing that is leaving me curious, because when you were first talking to us, you were saying like, what's next, and you were kind of like navigating your journey. Did you feel like you were chasing something, or how did you know something was over and there was something new?
So um, I feel there's an inner guidance that is guiding
Sure.
me. And so even that, that journey with the young people actually came
Mhm.
from a dream. So
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, there she
and
goes.
and the dream was a classic dream of, I was on a train, the train was being attacked by soldiers, I went into fear, and then all of a sudden something came over me and I moved into bravery and I stopped the
Mhm.
train and spoke to the soldiers somehow or other and said, no, 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 go home, it'll all be okay. And so like this, this sort of yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Anyway, I think you get the idea. Then the next morning, all of a sudden, this whole idea just came in, boom. Nobody had ever done this journey from the North Pole to the South Pole before. It could be like this, it could be this transformational journey involving young people with a similar message of just, let's create a healthier future.
Mm, love that. Go
So,
ahead.
so, so then that's been, as I look back now, I see that there's many of my decisions there's been these inner forces pulling me.
Ah,
Mm,
I
mm.
freaking love that.
Oh yeah. All right, go ahead, Alicia. I know you want to talk about dreams now.
No, no, no. I still have
Go
regular
ahead.
logic questions, I guess you could say. Um, because I'm thinking about what you were describing. And I think it's hilarious, by the way, that your face, Laura, you're like, oh, -28. You're from Chicago. Wasn't that like normal up there?
I moved here. I ran away from the cold.
True. So, anyway, when you were describing the conditions and how long this journey was, and now I'm still back at like, how did you guys do that?
Yeah.
Like you said that you basically said we had to choose our mindset every day, but there has to be more. Like, how did you guys get through that?
Um, well, one of the things I definitely see is that um, there's again, it's like a response to adversity, which
Mm,
is, I guess it would be like, it may be raining, but at least it's cold out. You know,
mm,
that sort of gallows humor or sort of adversity humor. And
Mhm.
so, and we would, for instance, we'd pile in the tent at the end of the day, and we would just, again, on one expedition to the North Pole, the conditions were so outrageous, just ridiculously, it was in the -60s. We're traveling 10 hours a day through this, very rough ice. And we get in the tent and we just laugh our heads off because we just, it was like, what a day, just unimaginable, so literally we
Mm.
just burst out laughing. So I think there's maybe it's just a quality of just, let's let's look, see what's possible. And then,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's ultimately humorous.
I love that.
I mean, they do say that resilience is regularly built through laughing at adversity. Like your ability to find humor in adversity has a direct correlation to your ability to build resilience.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Yeah.
Now, at any point, was anybody struggling? Like, did you guys have to help each other through this process?
Yeah, a bunch of times on all sorts of but all sorts of expeditions. But I want to share with you one particular moment that I think you two will totally, and the listeners will find interesting, fascinating. So, here I am, with 8 young people. We started off at the North Pole. It was high excitement, high adventure. We're trekking along, risk, etc., laughing at the adversity. Then we arrive in New York. We're bicycling now across the States. We're in Ohio. It's flat. It's boring. It's raining day after day. Team morale is going to do like this, right?
Hmm.
And so we get to Santa Fe and I meet a friend and she says, well, really team morale is so, really low. You have to do something. And she said, there's a process I recommend. So the process is you're going to sit with another team member and you're going to tell them everything you don't like about them, and they are not to say anything in response, right?
Mm.
So just everything you don't like, blurt it out. Then they're going to do the same with you. Then after that, you're going to then go back and say what you like, right? And so I was participating in this, but I could also hear, you know, Dylan, you know, your health, your personal hygiene is horrible. Your armpits stink. You leave your smelly socks around the place. You're a horrible at washing the dishes. You're a slob.
Mm.
Et cetera, et cetera. All this stuff comes out, right? And then and then, but what happened is that the list of things that they didn't like was quite big, but relatively insignificant. Then when they
Mhm.
moved on to things they liked, Dylan, you're really caring. You always go that extra mile. You helped me that time when I fell off my bike and you came over and you were just so sweet with me. And so what I realized is that so after that, the team performance shot up, enthusiasm took off, everything came off. So what I
Mm.
realized in our day to day, often we're focusing on the grumbles, and we're giving a lot of weight to these grumbles, which are actually, in the big scheme of things, insignificant, versus and often we're not saying, these beautiful things, which are also highly significant.
Yeah.
So we're focusing, our human, this is what we do as humans is focus over here on these things, when in fact, if we focused over there, we'd have a lot more fun in life.
Absolutely. I think we forget how important balance is in general, both in nature and ourselves, etc. So we seek positivity and happiness all the time because we prefer it and we're more acquainted with it. But here you are telling a story of how the laundry list of negative things was much bigger but minor and less substantial than the things that matter. What do you think it costs us in general when we avoid the negative things in our life?
Yeah, I see them just running. They run in the background then as unsaids, right? So they're reducing our energy. If so, from my
Mm.
perspective, I look at it as sort of two things. We either, when there's an energy like that in the body that's not being spoken out, if we can name it, we can tame it, or we can also name to blame, which is where we go,
Either
um,
way.
so we can do either one, but when we name it um, as just, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable or I'm frustrated, right? Then it's moving the energy out, and we're
Mhm.
more calm, we're more clear, et cetera, afterwards. And you know, I'm sure you know this very well. I think this is what you spend a lot of your time helping people with, right?
100%. I mean, I understand the resistance towards the hardships and the negativity of life, but how I often frame it and what I believe is like it's the training ground. Like when I think back to COVID and when things first started unwinding, I've always been healthy. I've always practiced health. My like first job was as a personal trainer and a nutrition specialist. So like I remember saying to my husband, like, this is what we train for without knowing we're training for it.
Hmm.
And like similarly, like you don't know the hardships that life is going to throw at you, but how do you train your mind to be prepared for it? Like even take something like love, right? When you agree to love someone, to date someone, to marry someone, whatever, love and pain are two sides of the same coin because you're giving someone a piece of yourself and saying, I'm going to trust you with this because I believe what we can build together is going to be more meaningful than protecting myself from pain. But then people want the love without the pain. That's not really how it goes. I think it's a very paradoxical truth, like reality that we live in is we don't like these hard moments, but they're the training grounds for what will inevitably come down the line, whether that's a breakup, a loss of a job, a loss of a parent. Like you can't prepare yourself for these things, but you can train your mind at least to be able to have your own back.
Yeah, I agree totally. I really see that in my own coaching, I speak about this as sort of um, look for the small, look for the small unconscious behaviors that are causing us pain and upset. And
Mm,
then as we start flipping those over, we learn how to flip things over. We learn
yeah.
how to, so start with small things and it gives us, we start building the resilience to handle the bigger things, yeah,
Hmm.
you know, the death of family members, loss of jobs, all those big things, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
So, when you went to your monk down the monk journey,
Yes.
uh, okay, obviously there was more suffering and adventure, we're calling it, involved. At any point, was it just like meditating? I'm just curious what the day-to-day life is for a monk. And I imagine it's not all just challenging yourself to suffer. I don't know.
No, no. So um, there's different organizations, right? And so the organization I was in was very much focused on, hey, you know, we want to, the mind is tricky, so we'll give you a meditation, but within a few days, you'll probably figure out your way around it, right? The mind, so we'll constantly reinvent different situations, different meditative situations. So one of the situations was we'd get up super early in the morning, would make a ring in the sand, a little trench in the sand, would put logs in it, set the logs on fire. So now we have a circle of fire, about a 5 feet diameter. When it had gone down, burnt down a little bit, we'd go and sit in the middle for a couple of hours. And so
Mm,
there, what I discovered was just like on the expedition, my mind could be in what the heck am I doing here? My mind would just go crazy, right? Just, this, etc. Or it could be actually absolute no mind, just pure bliss, pure just oneness with that, literally oneness with everything, oneness with, the flames, the smoke, doesn't matter. Yeah, you can list it. Yeah, I'm in oneness with it, right? But the
mm,
mind would flip back and forward fairly quickly. I realized that it's for me anyway. It wasn't as soon as I sit down, I don't go into this no mind state. Thoughts can come in, and at times the more I investigated too, or the more I did these various practices, the more at times it felt like somebody was attaching a sewer pipe to my head of thoughts. And
mm,
the thoughts would be not mine, but there'd be conversations between people I don't know. So literally, I was hearing in my head a conversation between Joe and Mary, who I don't know, but it was bits and pieces of, should we do this? Should we do that? I'm going, who are these people? What's this conversation? I have no idea, but it's the thoughts are there. And then it would shut off. So I realized
mm,
that there's a lot there's a lot of mental chatter basically. And I
mm.
realized that um, also as we so another way it was explained to me is that psychologists say we have, you know, 80% of our, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them, 70 or 80% of them are negative. So as we
Mhm.
do meditation, typically what we're doing is we're reducing that down, but it's typically often the negative thoughts we're reducing. So
Yeah.
what we're left with is more creative, more directional, more authentic thoughts, which then lead us to be more fulfilled in life. And if we reduce them even more, then we get even more heart-centered as we reduce the thoughts down. So
Mm.
definitely, I see it just as we reduce the thoughts, we get more present, more heart-centered.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Me
I've
too.
become very good at observing my mind, and it is bananas in there.
Mhm. Yeah, good, 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 good.
Yeah.
And I think
There's
that
a freedom to it. And I guess that's what actually I'm really curious about. You've exposed yourself to intense adversity. What do you, like freedom do you feel like you've gained from those pursuits?
so for me now, I feel like just about any situation I can see beauty. And so,
Mm, that's great.
um, yeah. So I'll give you an example. There was it was 2 years ago, walking down the road at night. Um, a car came along the road. I was with Maria, my wife. It was a hit. It hit me, knocked me to the ground. Um, so I was bleeding from my arm. But then ahead of it was a stop sign, and obviously the driver knew it had hit me. So then the driver drove through the stop sign and kept on accelerating away. And as
Mm,
I stood up, what happened with me is I felt huge compassion for the driver.
mm,
Wow, this person must be in so much fear. Now they've hit somebody
mhm,
and they've driven through a stop sign, and concern for me was I wasn't angry. I wasn't hardly that's where my thoughts went. And this was like, meanwhile, I'm the observer of this, going, oh wow, that's really neat. I like this. I like this version of me.
yeah.
This
Wow.
is quite a nice version of me. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, to your point, it's a choice of how you respond to adversity. And that is a very obvious example of where anger or hatred would be a very natural response. But given the training and just kind of the reconditioning, you got the freedom to choose peace from within. Like, I think
Mhm.
that's what it is like I get to experience life in a more beautiful and peaceful way because I have actively chosen to expose myself to discomfort, both physical, psychological, and spiritual.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm, that's pretty cool. It's very impressive.
Well, no, it feels great as well. That's
I bet. I
yeah,
bet.
yeah, yeah,
So, for our listeners, this is therapy is dope. A lot of people who listen to
yes.
this are going through unconscious struggles or whatever that
Mm.
might be. I doubt that they're going to sign up to hike Mount Everest
Hmm.
or go and be a monk per se. If you could give them like the top three things that you would encourage them to do to help them navigate through their adversity, what would you say?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd be saying look for these little niggly things that upset you, and
Mm,
start with those. Looking, why am I upset? I'll give you a quick story. Somebody stuck in traffic, going to work a couple of days a week. They get stuck in traffic, they get upset, right? They chat to a friend, and the friend says, well, why don't you learn Spanish? Listen to a podcast. Oh, okay, good. So just that one, going from an unconscious pattern, which will follow blindly for years, that person would have spent the next 20 years doing the same pattern. All of a sudden, there's a pattern. The whole thing has been reframed. They have a new solution. Now they're driving happily, stuck in traffic, right? So we have hundreds of these little things that we can just stop and go, what's an alternative here in this moment? And let me chat to a friend about it. Let me chat to a therapist about it. But, these are things I'm unconscious that niggle me, that upset me. But if I put my attention to it, I can switch, right? So that would be one.
mhm,
And another one would be how we start off our day, I think is hugely important. So the more joy we can have in the morning, the better. So if we can get up out of bed and smile, even put on some comedy, anything at all to get us laughing. Typically, my wife and I, we dance around, we sing,
mm,
we have silly songs, we make up words. We're literally goofy, but
mm,
deliberately goofy because we
mm.
know it creates that ease in the body, which then helps us through the day.
Yeah, I love that. Deliberately goofy.
Hmm.
I think that's why I love Alicia so much, is she's deliberately goofy.
That's my suspicion. That's what I'm seeing too.
Thanks, guys.
That's right. Is that a compliment or not? That's right.
It definitely is, and she knows it is coming from me.
I'll take it regardless. I'll make it positive.
Mhm.
Atta girl. All right,
And
what's the
then,
third one?
then the third one would be how we end the day as well. And so I really see
Mm,
that when we end the day in gratitude, that makes a huge
mhm,
difference. So gratitude journaling, or and in my gratitude journaling, I'd be saying, let's look at not we tend to in gratitude we tend to start off saying, I'm grateful for the ice cream I had at lunchtime.
sure.
Um,
That
I'm
does sound
grateful
good.
for these sweet things in life. But instead, let's start being, let's add in, I'm grateful for that difficult conversation. I'm grateful for how I handled you know, I'm grateful for that insight that, oh, that was difficult. Let me handle it better in the future. Things like that. So,
Yeah.
because just as you two both mentioned this, I'm going to feed it back to you because you both mentioned that actually it's the difficult situations where the growth occurs, right? And
Yeah.
so let's be grateful in the evening for the difficult situations because that will give me the growth in future, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, the three simple things you mentioned, I feel like I've heard them before, right? And I think this is an important plug because hearing them multiple times isn't a bad thing. It's from different professionals, people who are in this, who are consistently sharing the same message. Like, obviously, there's something to it. I think where a lot of people kind of question it or don't give it the full umph, I know I didn't in the beginning of my journey, is it's not something you do once. It's like going to the gym, right? If you go to the
Mm,
gym once, you're not going to walk out and be perfectly fit. It's a practice of setting your mind up for success. It's a practice of unwinding with gratitude, seeing your challenges for the growth that you curated. It's a practice of being deliberately goofy whenever you can and seeing those, micro pain moments as an opportunity to evolve yourself for yourself, but it's a practice that requires consistency to actually get the benefits of it. Because if you just do it once or twice or for a week or even 2 weeks, it's gonna feel like all these professionals who still say these same things because you're right. Like, what are they talking about? What am I missing? Am I doing it wrong? Is often what I'll hear from people. And it's like, no, it's not that you're doing it wrong, but you need to allow it to blossom. It's like
mm,
planting seeds and you need to water it by showing up every day and just nurturing it. And if you do that, just like it takes time for a tree to grow, you will experience the positivity because hearing someone who got hit by a car have compassion for the driver, for someone who hasn't gone through your training ground, they're gonna be like, what the hell? But it really does show what's possible because it's not about necessarily the severity of what happened or the response. It's the freedom that you had to choose how you navigated that. And I think you chose beauty, and that is such a beautiful and free experience. And we always talk about or we hear about people wanting to control themselves. I just want to control my emotions. I want to control these things. Control and freedom are not the same thing. If you want to be able to actually flow, this
mm.
is the way to freedom. But
Yes,
control actually keeps us in our limited unconscious struggle.
yes, yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And I, I definitely the whole training metaphor I think is super, super important. We just view it as um, these are exercises for my emotional,
Yeah.
mental, physical, and spiritual body. And it's for all of them. And let's
I think that's health, right? It's not
yes,
just go to
yeah,
the gym to be physically fit. It's how do I nourish my emotional, my mental, my spiritual? These are the
mm,
practices.
yes, yeah.
I have one last question.
Okay, good.
I'm full of them. You mentioned in your fire exercise oneness with the fire and the smoke. Very difficult for me to wrap my head around, but then oneness with everything is hard for me to wrap my head around, period. So I want to know, how did you get to a place of oneness? Is it a place in a meditation? Is it a place in practicing knowing? Is it a feeling? Is it all of those things? You tell me.
Hmm, good question. So it's a space, from this is my version, it's a space inside me that's
Okay.
accessible, that was always was there, but it didn't know it, right?
Mm,
I
And
believe that.
and I can find it way easier now. And
hmm
so it's available and it will occur the more we do the practices.
Yeah.
That does make
Yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds mystical and fantastic and definitely a place I want to find. It's hard to understand and conceptualize if you don't know where to look or you haven't had the experiences that you've had, but I like the specificity, if I said that word right, that it's something you embraced and found from within yourself, not
Hmm.
something you achieved outside yourself.
Hmm.
Uh, it sounds like the hill.
I could see that. I mean, I think it's connected because the hill is about consciousness, and I think oneness is about consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, I think about it from a quantum physics perspective, not that I'm a quantum physics expert by any means, but uh, just the concept of infinity or
Mm.
multiverse or uh, multiple dimensions or, it's a
Hmm.
really hard thing to wrap your head around. And so I guess what I'm hearing from you is you have to practice and you'll experience it.
That's yes. Yeah, that's yeah, just keep on. So again, what I realize is that the more we set a goal, just an outrageous goal, and we don't necessarily know the path there, but just set the
Mm.
goal of, hey, I want to live an enlightening life, and just keep
Mhm.
on putting that out. Hey, what, and universe, I want to live in, whoever we chat with, I want to live an enlightening light and just life and just show me, reveal it to me. And that's the, in all these expeditions, that often what happened is that I had an idea, and the path took me, halfway around the world and involved 1,000 other things I never thought I would do. But then I ended, oh, I'm here. So just set the big goal and then just allow it to unfold.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I love
All
that.
right. Is there somewhere that people can find you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's enlighteningadventures.com.
Oh,
Um,
love that.
yes,
Perfect for you.
yes, that's right.
He's good at naming things.
He really is. You should make that like your side job. We need to rename our podcast. That's a fantastic
Oh, I see.
business. Sheesh.
And then I also have a book of my adventures, which is called, actually, I have it here. It's called Sure, Let's Go to the Ends of the Earth and a bit past that. So
That's so
Great.
it
cool.
gets
Another
into
good
more
title.
mystical stuff as well. Yeah. And that's
Brilliant.
on Amazon.
That is so cool. All right. Well, thank
Mhm.
you so much for being with us today and
Mm,
for taking time to share your journeys with us. That was
really.
really awesome, and I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, and
Likewise.
thank you for what you do. I'm really anybody listening, pursue these two ladies, reach out, follow them, just you can learn a lot.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks.